Mr. R.D. Reynolds, are you there, sir?
Hello.
Hello, R.D. Hey, it's Stevie J. How are you this evening?
I am blessed. I am waiting for my cohort to give me a call.
All right. Well, that means we're getting the hobo on, too. Blade Braxton will be joining us at some point, but let me first and foremost introduce my co-host for the evening, Jason Harlan, a.k.a. Great Sudoku.
Hey, Deal. How's it going?
It is fantastic. It is a great night here in lovely Indianapolis.
We have some...
excuse me, wait. It is a great night here in lovely Jupiter, Florida.
Well, we have to say right off the bat that Jason has a very interesting connection to WrestleCrap Radio because back when I was a sponsor of the program, he was the one who came up with the Jeff Foxworthy voice.
I was. I will come clean and admit that I came up with the written ad for Angry Marks with the Jeff Foxworthy thing, and I had Killer Kev try to read it on the air. He didn't do it right. So I came on the air and read it in, my Jeff Foxworthy voice, figuring, hey, this is WrestleCrap worthy, this is about as timely as ZZ Top is for the, WWE, WWF appearances. But I have to say, Deal, selling that worked even better than I could have ever imagined. Selling that, and that becoming like the WrestleCrap of WrestleCrap was just amazing.
We have more WrestleCrap on the line. Just a second.
All right. I heard a pause there, so thought maybe something was up.
Maybe mistaken, but I think you've just doubled your crap quotient.
All right.
Because I believe Mr. Blade Braxton is on the line with us now as well.
All right, Blade. How's it going, brother?
It's going wonderful, Stevie J. It's a beautiful thing to hear your wonderful voice.
So how many beers are you in this evening on a fine Thursday night?
Absolutely zero, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a ridiculous hangover from drinking some Old Milwaukee last night. I don't want to ever drink again.
Oh, no. Old Mill is snake bit. That's you get a wicked hangover if you're trying to pound old mud.
But it's so delicious.
Well, yes, it's hard to resist. But hey, I want to talk about memories of Roddy Piper.
Okay, of course.
No, what were you going to say about Old Mud?
It tastes as great as its name, man.
Well, I don't even know what Milwaukee tastes like, and I don't really want to know, but I know Old Milwaukee gives me a headache. So,
you guys should avoid Old Milwaukee and just start drinking Old Detroit. That's our new bottled top one. So.
Well, the reason I'm trying to segue to Piper here is because the weekend that I got to meet him when I was hanging out with the two of you, we were drinking Old Milwaukees. We were drinking PBRs pretty much nonstop.
Well, of course, man. Great weekend.
In fact, in the video clip from the WrestleCrap vlog that I took when I was walking around basically as Blade Braxton's cameraman / Roddy, following him on his comical adventures, we can see Zane Paisley standing there with a PBR in his hand talking to Roddy Piper. So let's start with that. Tell us about when both of you met Hot Rod.
Well, actually, I had actually met Roddy about a year earlier. A couple of my friends were working for a Harley race show somewhere in Missouri, and Roddy was booked on the show. And I couldn't work the show. I didn't have a license with the Missouri Athletic Commission, but I tagged along anyway. Ended up meeting Roddy, and I had a little interview with him, and we did a 2011 update on his infamous Halloween tips he did back on Prime Time Wrestling back in '89.
Yeah, where he was telling everybody to look out for traffic and to not take stuff from strangers and to let their parents check the bag when they came home. All that good advice he had.
You got to be wearing neon green.
Right.
Yeah,
it's cars.
See, I kind of wish he would have waited another 5 or 10 years and put out like a V2 version of his Halloween promo where he says, paint half your face neon, but paint the other half black.
Oh. Well, from there,
But Roddy was.
go ahead.
It's funny because I met Roddy a few times, and every time, I mean, the cool thing that I always thought about Roddy is he was just his own guy, and he didn't really care what anybody thought. And it was, this is me. This is what Roddy Piper thinks. And, you can look at and a lot of people will say, well, he claimed this and this wasn't quite right or whatever. He claimed that his first match he lost to Larry Hennig and that wasn't correct. But you know what, to Roddy it was, and that's all that really mattered. So he kind of had his own world. And it's pretty amazing when you think about it that he would just, he really did play by his own rules, you really think about what he did. I mean, how many people he ever lost to, in wrestling. There ain't many. And that was one of the things that I can't even imagine anybody like now being able to go to Vince and saying, yeah, I'm not going to lose to this guy, or I'm not going to lose to that guy. But that's what Roddy did. It was like really amazing.
Yeah.
And then actually getting to talk with him, a couple times. I mean, you could tell this is just who I am. I am who I am. Roddy Piper. This is Roddy Piper's world, and this is just me. And I am not going to be different for anybody else. And no, he was awesome. A lot of people would talk about how he, as he got older, he'd ramble and be all over the place. I mean, you guys have heard those stories. And this one I've never told, but I was actually on the Piper's Pit podcast, and that was about 6 or 9 months ago. And it was funny because whenever I was getting on the air, before I got on, his producer, I don't remember the gentleman's name, he's a really nice guy, but he's like, okay, you're going to be on there, and Roddy has a tendency to kind of veer all over the place, and we kind of need you to keep him on subject. And I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me how I should be telling Roddy Piper what to do? It was like the most absurd thing ever. I was like, that's, I can try, but, and at points I was just like, it's Roddy Piper, just let Roddy Piper be Roddy Piper. It doesn't matter if you try to have him not be Roddy Piper, you're going to lose anyway. So let him be Roddy Piper. That was what was so great about him. One of the many things that was so great about him.
And there are so many great things we're going to get into about him, but let me direct a very specific question about Piper to Mr. R.D. Reynolds, because there's a very curious interplay. Obviously, when I saw his interactions with you, they were very warm and cordial, and you were on his podcast. Obviously, he has good feelings about you. And at the same time, you co-wrote The Death of WCW with Brian Alvarez, and you run a site called WrestleCrap. And yep. Piper, it's not always featured in the best light in either of those cases.
Absolutely. I mean, Roddy, whenever he was in WCW, excuse me, I mean, he was much older, and he would, when I was on his podcast, I mean, he called me out on that too. I mean, he said, people were saying that he was in some of the worst matches there. And he was telling me about he was in a steel cage match with, it must have been with Hogan. I think it was with Hogan. And he was talking about, you have no idea how badly that cage was constructed. I was like, wait a minute, you were in WCW and you're telling me they couldn't put a cage together? I guess that really shouldn't surprise me. But, I mean, for sure I've called him out on things, over the years. But I mean, there's a lot of people that, I've called out on things over the years too. And that doesn't mean that I don't admire the person. It doesn't mean that I don't think there are things that were, that I don't think the person's, good or anything like that. I mean, it's from day one, WrestleCraft's always been, I want to make fun of the situation, not the person. Generally. I mean, I do make exceptions. I do make exceptions sometimes, but I mean, with Roddy Piper, like I'll never forget when we relaunched the site a couple of years ago. The very first new induction I think I did was the fitness video that he did for kids. Fighting Fit with Roddy Piper. I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first things I did, and it was like just crazy, and it was like just now that I look at it, and of course I made fun of him in it and everything else, but I mean, again, that was Roddy Piper. That's who Roddy Piper was.
Well, the thing I want to key on specifically about that is that one of the reasons he's called Hot Rod by so many people is not just because it looked cool on the t-shirt and made him a lot of money, is because legitimately Roddy Piper could, on a moment's notice, he could be, 1 minute he'd be warm and cordial and friendly, and the next he'd, as Brian Alvarez has infamously recounted, pull you into a bathroom, turn off the lights, put a lighter under your nose, and try to scare the living hell out of you. So that's the thing that I wondered when I was standing there in line with you guys, and I'm waiting to meet him. I'm like, what is this going to be like? Are we going to get Roddy that's like warm and friendly and loves everybody, or is he going to just rip into you about some of the things on WrestleCrap over the years? And that's why part of the reason I wanted to talk to you tonight is like, even though you had all these entries and all these things that you'd written over the years, and yet you and Piper, from what I saw, it was magical. Obviously, the whatever the relationship, the love, the chemistry, or just the simple understanding that he could laugh at it too, knowing that he'd done some WrestleCrap. I guess you can explain what the dynamic was better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true with a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people, whatever. There are very few people in wrestling that once I have talked with them have ever really gotten angry about anything I've written, WrestleCrap they were involved in. It's very, very rare. In fact, I can only think of, off the top of my head, I can only think of two. And one was somebody who, years later now, I've seen him I've run into him a couple of times, and he actually laughs about it and makes fun of me for writing, that he was a rapping fool of a manager, and that's Oscar from Men on a Mission. And, he actually, at one show I was at, we were both at, I was doing a book signing. Of course, he was there signing, stuff. Excuse me. He literally opened up the book and was reading out loud to me what I had written. Right back to me. It was very funny. And the only one that I can ever recall that was like really angry, and legit angry still to this day, if you ask him, was Mark Madden. And
he is a
Madden sent me like hate mail, about things I had written about him, and whenever he did that match with Gene Okerlund. But I mean, Piper wouldn't have been like that. Piper understands, Piper understood. I really think he understood. He had no real problems with me at all. The things that he did have issues with, he brought up, and he let me state my side. He stated his side, and at the end of the day, it was no different. It's kind of like Vince Russo in a weird way. Like Russo and and Blade too, we get along with Russo absolutely fine. And I've written more, stuff blasting Russo than, just about anybody. But Russo and I get along fine because we can respect each other's viewpoints. I think it's the same thing with Piper,
And that brings me, I wanted to just bring up my favorite moment of Roddy Piper's career, kind of late in his career. I think it was 2003 in NWA TNA, the work shoot that he had on Vince Russo where he called him a piece of garbage in the angle he was running. And to me at that time it was perfect because the demises of ECW and WCW was still fresh in my head, and the TNA weekly pay-per-views were really the only alternative to WWF, WWE programming at the time. And with the calling out of Vince Russo that Roddy Piper was doing. That just was something that I really enjoyed seeing at the time.
And again, it was something that this actually reminds me of something that I brought up with Piper on his podcast too. Was, you know, now everything in wrestling is so scripted, and that's something that a lot of people bemoan the fact about. And I just had to ask him, and you're bringing it up. I mean, no one would have told Piper, okay, we want you to go out and say this. I mean, they could have given us bullet points. I guarantee you, whatever he went out and said, he just was whatever he felt going out and saying. Even asking, I said, what on earth would you think if you're in a wrestling business and someone hands you a script? You know, you can't do that with Roddy Piper. And I'm sure that they may have given him some angle, you know, okay, we want you to kind of go this direction. But Piper's going to do what Piper was going to do. And that's what always made it so much fun to see, even in his later years, like you said, with TNA, just him going out with a live mic. Roddy Piper with a live mic. That's just, it's always going to be interesting because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Well, he got in trouble. Remember, one of his last appearances on WWE, he was supposed to say something scripted, and he didn't, and then Vince said, that's the last time he's ever going to be on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now I'm trying to piece together my memories of a very beer and adrenaline-fueled weekend at Days of the Dead, but I seem to recall somebody in our crew presented Roddy Piper with a videotape. Does anybody else remember this, or am I just imagining it?
With the was the Roddy Piper VHS tape, right?
Yes.
Yep, that was me.
Okay.
That was me. I actually had that because that was what I wanted to get signed. And he was just so gracious, and he, you know, signed it, and, he was awesome. It was kind of amazed that someone had a tape that was quite that old, because that was the best of Roddy Piper, or whatever that first videotape was.
Roddy Piper's greatest hits.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I had that. I don't even remember where I got it, but yeah, I
actually.
Is that yours?
No. I was going to say, when I met Piper the first time in 2011, I told him I had his first biography to sign, and from 1985, and he was like, huh? And it was like they called them biographies, but it was basically just a picture book from 1985 at the height of the boom period. So I got that autograph. So that's a memento I'll cherish forever.
Yeah. I don't collect a lot of stuff anymore, but I know some things that I'll never, would never want to get rid of. So that would be the top of the list.
So now you mentioned being on Piper's podcast a few months ago, 6-9 months, however long ago it was already. So I guess it's just the fact that we're all reacting to his sudden unexpected passing, and it just did seem like he was in bad health. He was doing this podcast. He was involved in a lot of different things. What were your thoughts knowing that you just done the show with him and then he passed away? Like, how did you react to this? Like, were you as flabbergasted as the rest of us?
I was just heartbroken. I mean, there are some deaths in wrestling that really hurt more than others. The Randy Savage, when Randy Savage, I mean, I remember saying to my wife, is like, part of my childhood is just forever gone. Whenever I found out Randy Savage had died. And even Dusty, as great as I thought Dusty was, it hurt, but it was like, oh man, it was kind of like that. I was like, oh man. And, later that day I was just moving on. This one has really just been a heartbreaker. I mean, it's been almost a week, and I am still still kind of bummed about it. The guy that runs all of that's kind of my guru these days, at WrestleCrop.com, that handles all of the behind the scenes stuff. is named the Big Cheese, Paul Kraft, and he handles like what items we have, you know, the top of the list on the website. And he's like, do you want to make it so the Piper stuff is not at the top of the page anymore? Because, you always want to keep, the newest stuff at the top. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to keep it at the top. We're going to keep it at the top for a while because it's really, I'm still kind of in a grieving state about it. I mean, this one's really, really hurt. So.
Yeah, I've tried to describe it to several people over the last week, and the best I can say is that there was a period where I started to resent how goody two-shoes Hulk Hogan was as a kid. And I know it's fashionable these days to say, yeah, I hated Hogan. I was thinking of blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to jump on that bandwagon, especially with the racist things that have come out that he said. But for me, and it's the God's honest truth, I started to like people like Jake the Snake and Roddy Piper and Earthquake. God bless, we've lost two of those three. And it's just anybody that was opposing Hogan became interesting to me. And if they had a lot of charisma and personality, so much the better. And few people in this wrestling business have ever had as much charisma as Roddy Piper.
Oh,
Go ahead, Blade.
I gotta tell you something, Stevie. You know what? I was the same way. I mean, I hated Hogan. I started watching wrestling in probably '83. I hated Hogan. I liked the bad guys, and my two favorite wrestlers were Roddy Piper and Adrian Adonis. We had a crazy guy wearing a kilt and a bad guy wearing a leather jacket. Now, I just want to say something, man. When I was a kid, I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know really what it felt like to be bummed out. I had a good childhood, but I just got to say, when Adrian Adonis started to cross-dress and when Roddy Piper became a good guy and my two favorite wrestlers drastically changed and started to fight each other, I felt what I would later know as depression, because I was like, oh man, this sucks. Why has this got to happen?
I hopped on the bandwagon a little bit later. I actually liked the Dungeon of Doom specifically because their sole purpose for existing was to kill Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that's a shame that we didn't have you on the Undisputed Wrestling Show a couple of weeks ago, Jason, because we had the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan on for an interview.
Oh, missed a good one there.
I love the Dungeon of Doom. I will never forget that their main plan to defeat Hulk Hogan was to dry hump him to death. I mean, it all began, and, the final plan was to dry hump him to death and at Halloween Havoc, and boy, did it fail.
Honestly, one of my all-time favorite WrestleCrap entries is the one where Hogan is confronted by the Giant when the Dungeon of Doom is trying to take him down, and he's wandering through that cave or whatever mystical portal he had wandered into, and he encounters the water, and he goes, "It's not hot!" To this day, I've still never figured out what the heck was going through his mind when he said that.
I wonder where that cave is. Does it exist anymore?
I think it's like Springfield on The Simpsons. It exists, but we don't know in which state.
And what is the temperature? What is the temperature of the water these days?
I don't know, but it's not hot.
It's not hot. Ow.
Oh,
but it's not lukewarm.
but back to Piper, if I may. And part of the reason that I've loved WrestleCraft so long over the years, and part of the reason I wanted to sponsor WrestleCraft Radio, is because at the darkest hours when I thought I was depressed and losing faith in wrestling and maybe everything else, when I could read WrestleCraft and laugh and smile and get cheered up. And Piper came up over and over again in WrestleCraft updates and entries And one of the ones that I'm fondly remembering right now is when he had half of his face painted black and half of his face painted white. And I want RD to expand upon that a little bit.
You know, I mean, how many years ago? That was at WrestleMania 6, right?
Yes.
6 with the ring that would come to the ring, yeah.
So that would have been in 1990. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
I think so. Yeah. So I've had 25 years, a quarter of a century, to attempt to decipher what the logic was there. I can't. I think I could have, you know, another 150 years, and I would have no idea, still to this day, what the logic was there. I have no idea.
I almost wonder if somebody working in WWF at the time was a holdover from Star Trek, the original Star Trek in the 1960s, because I seem to remember they had a race of people that, like, they lived on one side of the planet and half of their face was one color and the other half lived on the other side of the planet and they were at war with each other.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was the Sharons, I believe. Frank Gorshin played one of them.
Right.
From the Riddler.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? I got to say, you know, RD said that he, you know, Piper wasn't mad at him, but for writing stuff on WrestleCrap. Because I think, honestly, in the early days, I actually wrote more about Piper than RD did. Because I remember writing the introduction.
Everyone should hate Blade, not me.
I remember I wrote the induction for when Roddy was running around through Alcatraz. I wrote the article about Ebenezer Piper. Remember that one?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That's another one of my favorites.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I had this on VHS, and this was, of course, you know, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when it was just me and RD. You know, there was no YouTube, so we had to rely on what we had on VHS tapes. But I don't believe we've ever inducted Roddy Piper's Dungeon yet, have we, Bill?
Roddy Piper's Dungeon. I must not, because I do not remember what I'm not even quite sure what you're referring to.
Okay, I think it was pre-WrestleMania 2. So Roddy is kind of it was on the TNT program, and Roddy takes Vince down into like his training dungeon. And there's all these medieval torture devices down there, and there's a witch in a cage.
This sounds very familiar. I remember this now. Go on, Blade.
I haven't seen it in 15 years or so, and but I don't remember what the purpose was. I just remember there was a witch growling in pain, locked up in a cage.
I think they tried to. You should be.
And I think they tried to torture Lord Alfred Hayes.
As Lord Alfred Hayes should be.
I remember Roddy slapped the hell out of Hayes one time. Remember that?
Was that on Tuesday Night Titans?
As well he should be.
Yes.
Now, if he had slapped the hell out of him with a sugar daddy, that would have been even better.
Well, some things never change. Sugar daddy. The flavor that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah, that's what's really missing in wrestling is Lord Alfred gelling.
Promotional considerations paid for by the following.
Double Dragon.
Like stripes, fruit stripe gum.
Yipe stripes.
See, honestly, that's one of my biggest...
You know what? I just see that you mentioned Yipe stripes. Every once in a while, as I'm driving home from work, I will see a Yipe stripes like semi-trailer. I swear I always drive really fast to get up so I can be side by side and see if Lord Alfred's driving it.
I love seeing those on the highway.
Oh, yeah.
So back to stories of interacting with Piper personally. He had some run-ins on WrestleCrap radio programming, and memorable appearances, which people can go look up now in the archives. So how did those occur? How did those get arranged? How did that happen? Or is just Piper being Piper, calling his own shot and running in on it?
I mean, the one where he showed up, you know, at the Days of the Dead convention, I mean, he literally just came down the hall and we said, "Hey, Roddy, come here." And he just jumped in. I mean, it was Roddy being Roddy. None of that was planned. We had not talked to him earlier in the day. There was nobody in that hallway. Nobody. And he just came down the hall and he just jumped in and joined in.
Now, it
was amazing.
Let me get the dates clear, because when I went with Blade when we road tripped, I thought it was going to be the last ever WrestleCraft Radio. So was this the next year when he did the appearance? Because again, that was a very beer-soaked weekend for me, so I don't remember whether it was that year or the year after.
Yes, so we went, Stevie J, the year that we went was 2012. The year later, 2013, we resurrected WrestleCraft Radio for one night only. And in 2013, that was when Piper rolled down the hallway. So you were not there, Stevie J. It was just it was a trio of myself, Artie Reynolds, and Don Mason hosting the show, and Roddy Piper joined us.
Right.
Completing what could arguably the greatest foursome since the original Four Horsemen.
And to this day, you're still ribbing me about the fact that I missed it that weekend because I had to choose between going to Days of the Dead again or going to Las Vegas for the Figure 4 annual convention. But on the plus side, I did get Granny to give Artie Reynolds a shout out on video, so I got something out of going there.
Nice.
So, yeah, I missed out on seeing the Piper run in, and I still have trouble believing Don Mason is real, because every time I've been about to meet him somewhere, he's bailed or I've bailed, so I'm having a hard time believing the man is real.
The uncharismatic...
You don't believe that who doesn't exist?
Don Mason.
Don?
This would be Don now, right?
Don Mason?
Don Mason.
I mean, yes, he was there for the WrestleCraft Resurrection that I missed, and I've heard the audio, but at the same time, you almost don't hear the audio because he doesn't speak up very well.
Well, Don's very well spoken. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well spoken, just not audible. There's a difference.
Well, he was kind of sitting far away from the microphones.
Yeah, when I was
Don was a good guy. It's funny. Everybody always talks about this old show we used to do. It's very, very interesting.
Would you say he was even a good egg?
I would say he was a fine young egg.
A fine young egg with corn oil.
We don't want to know where that egg wound up with that corn oil.
Oh, no.
Or what came bubbling out of where.
Yeah.
Ooh. Got some diehard WrestleCraft Radio fans.
Well,
I would say so.
I think that was actually how I won some sort of prize when we were taping the final ever WrestleCraft, as I made a reference to that when you asked the trivia question. In my beer-soaked state, I still knew that it came bubbling back up.
See, life lessons learned from Don Mason. Now you can't say that 10 years of Artie Reynolds and myself podcasting have never taught anybody anything.
Well, we had actually just before we came on with you guys, we had just recorded. We had recorded our own show that will be going up probably sometime this weekend. And we were talking about that because our 10th anniversary of podcasting will be next week. It's crazy. Yeah.
And in that time, it's changed from WrestleCraft Radio to the RD and Blade show. And it's a lot of the same stuff, but it's not a lot of the same stuff because it's not as gimmick-heavy as it used to be.
Nope. But
and a little more PG.
We still a little more PG. But I mean, we were, for the first few years, we really weren't gimmick heavy. We didn't have characters, nor, was I drunk and obnoxious too bad. So in a way, our present Artie and Blade shows really closely resemble the early days.
I suppose so. I guess we're coming back full circle then. That's the way it worked out. But, Jason, I want to give you the floor and let you ask a few questions because I know our time is short and Artie has a job he has to get to in the morning and Blade has probably a construction job to get to in the morning. So if you got a few questions, get them in before we let everybody go.
Yeah, sure thing. Where was I going with this? Yeah, how time does fly. It just seems like yesterday I was listening to the 5-year anniversary podcast for WrestleCrap Radio, and we're coming up now. You said this weekend you're going to be releasing the 10th anniversary podcast, so that's
actually
right
the
there.
10th anniversary. The 10th anniversary we'll be releasing we're actually recording it next week. So.
Oh, you're recording that next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been a long time listener. I remember going to WrestleCrap when it first opened up. I mean, heck, I was still looking up how to do moves for WCW, NWO World Tour when WrestleCrap went online. So that kind of dates how long I've been following WrestleCrap.
Nice.
But I also want to give a shout out to you, RD, for getting me into Lucha Underground. There was a post you had made on Facebook talking about El Mariachi Loco and how you enjoyed watching Lucha Underground. That got me to check it out. And currently I am now recapping Lucha Underground for AngryMarks.com. So thank you for pointing me in their direction too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because it's so sad because we don't know if that's going to be if they're done. And it kind of sounds like they probably are. So.
Did you
I have it on my DVR, and I have not had a chance to watch it yet. Yes, keep me spoiler free. I was just over at my neighbors, and they kept trying to tell me everything that happened. I was like, whoa, silence!
But yeah, I think the one thing that's kind of given me solace in this whole thing and that's kind of kept me going with Roddy Piper's death, number one is that it falls between the 2 weeks of Ultimate Lucha, and number two that it falls right in the middle of the G1 climax. If it weren't for having so much great wrestling going on, I think I'd be a lot more broken up over Piper's death than I am. So there's that too.
Yeah, happy distractions are a good thing at a time like this when we've lost so many wrestling legends this year, this summer, this last few weeks. It's good to have so much good wrestling to watch right now with NXT, Lucha Underground, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and on occasion even WWE. There are a lot of good distractions at the moment.
Oh yeah, and I'd wanted to get back to Mark Madden too because I live in Pittsburgh and he does a radio show here, and the people here don't even take him seriously. He will say anything to get ratings, despite how stupid the things that are coming out of his mouth sound. So don't take anything Mark Madden says to heart. We don't take him seriously here in his hometown.
Oh no, I knew exactly what he was. I knew what he was. I understood his his gimmick. I knew that from the beginning. So, yep.
And yeah, Blade over there. Yeah, here I am looking out the window of my domicile, and across the street I can see the high school that ex-Lions quarterback Charlie Batch went to high school at, Steel Valley High School.
Nice, nice.
Nice. I don't know where that is, but it was almost sacred ground to me. Charlie Batch was a legend.
Yeah, he's from this area, and he came back to the Steelers after his career with the Lions, and yeah, loved by both Lions fans and Steelers fans. Charlie Batch is a good guy.
Well, hey, that might be...
Now, were you the one...
Oh, go ahead, Blade.
Oh, were you the one that sent me a photo of, like, some Charlie Batch mural?
Yeah, the Charlie Batch playground. I was the one who sent you that picture. Yes, indeed.
Okay, awesome. All right. Yeah, that's great.
I want that
Batch
on a daily
playground.
The Lions would probably have a Super Bowl win if they would have kept Batch.
Well, speaking of which, that's actually a great segue because I know time draws short. And to wrap it up on a hopefully happy note, since we're all sad about the passing of Piper and we want to keep ourselves distracted, we do have NFL football coming up in a few months here. It's coming around the corner very quick. So I want to get predictions from both of you on the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. How are they going to fare?
Oh, yeah. Obviously the Lions. Obviously the Lions will be the NFC North champions as long as Roger the Goodell books it. Obviously he booked the Cowboys to defeat the Lions when the Lions actually beat the Cowboys in real life. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And the
Colts.
Colts.
Super Bowl.
I mean, it's obvious that we're heading for a Lions Colts Super Bowl. I mean, there's no question of this. Agreed?
I agree.
That will be the greatest. I don't even know what we would do if we wind up with that.
Well, I used to tell my friend that if Jim McMahon ever signed because Jim McMahon was my favorite player who never played for the Lions. I said, if Jim McMahon ever signs with the Lions, I'll streak naked down my street because I've been so happy. Maybe if the Lions beat the Colts, I'll streak naked down your neighborhood, Hardy.
Just so I'm following along, because I don't know that I am. That is how you express joy. Strip naked and run on public streets.
Yeah, I guess that's how I would express ultimate Lions joy. I don't know. I haven't had that much Lions joy, so
I really hope the Lions never ever. No offense to any other Detroit fans. I know there are a lot of you out there. I really hope the Lions never win ever again.
Well, speaking of bitter grapes, RD, I have to ask you this one. Ever since Peyton Manning left and went to the Broncos, how have you felt about their fortunes?
About the Broncos?
Yeah.
Oh, now you're gonna get him all ratcheted up.
Oh, I'm already ready.
Do this.
I'm already ready.
Huh?
Go ahead, get ratcheted up.
Because see, I don't have to have one team is the only team I can cheer for. That makes the NFL kind of boring to me.
No, it doesn't.
I can cheer for more than one team.
No, you shouldn't.
Of course, trump everything else. But I have no problem with Peyton. He's always good to us. That's fine. If the Broncos were to win the Super Bowl, I'd be happy. If the Colts were to win the Super Bowl, I'd be elated. If the Bengals, because I grew up in Cincinnati, I'm fine with that. This should make you feel better, my hobo-tastic friend. If the Lions were to win the Super Bowl against anybody but the Colts, I'd be totally down with it.
Well, that makes sense, but you should not be cheering for the Bengals or the Broncos because they're in your same division. You should want them to lose. You should want them. You should want conference. That's what I meant. You should want them to lose every week. And that would, you said that the football's not as exciting. No, it makes it more exciting when you want every other team in your conference to lose, because that would get you a better seeding in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you're not going to, even if you lose, somebody else wins. It's not like everyone's 0-16 except for the Colts.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, but you should want the other teams in your conference to lose, so that way the Colts could get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Home field advantage in playoff games. You can't get that if you want Peyton Manning to win every game for the Broncos. You'll be you could end up on the road at Mile High Stadium due to your love for Peyton Manning.
They did it last year in the playoffs and they won. So who cares?
Where did you end up?
Making my point.
Where did you end up?
May I end this argument in song?
Did you end up on the road in New England and you lost?
May I end this argument in song?
As the host of the show, I say yes.
It's only you and me and we just disagree.
It's only you and me, and you're on a bandwagon.
Is there going to be a WrestleCraft Fantasy Football League this year?
Oh, good question.
Yes, there always is.
Yes, always.
Yes, fantasy league that RD has never won.
I am actually. You know what I may do? I may have Mrs. Deal play my slot in a WrestleCraft league this year. She is obsessed with fantasy football.
Stevie J, I don't know if you know this, but yes, we do have the WrestleCraft Fantasy Football League, and the winner of the league gets the coveted Bill Fralick Trophy. What?
Yeah, all I heard was
painted brown.
Yes, it's painted brown.
I hope it's paint.
In honor of the great Bill Fralick and his Lions career, as well as his WrestleMania 2 feud with Big John Studd, a.k.a. Stud the Dud.
All right, gentlemen, I have to say, I'm never going to win fantasy football, whether it's WrestleCrap or the Keyboard Quarterbacks or any other league that I've ever belonged to, because my weakness as a human being is that I always try to get a Bears quarterback and a Bears running back on my fantasy football team every single time. Even when I could draft somebody better, I still do it.
Well, he's a draft Bears stink.
Well, of course you're going to say that if the Lions, man. I wouldn't expect you to say anything else.
The Bears are not one of my teams.
Amazing!
The Bears.
Oh wow!
The only
RD only likes 31 teams in the NFL. No, I take that back. I take that back. RD likes 33 teams in the league. All 31 teams minus the Bears plus the NFC and AFC Pro Bowl squads.
You know, gentlemen, what I always say about it is my second favorite team is the New England Patriots, and everybody else is tied for first.
Yes.
There you go.
And on that note, let's get in some cheap plugs so we can wrap it up and everybody can go to bed. RD, let's start with you.
WrestleCrap.com is where you get all the fantastic stuff. We have you mentioned WrestleCrap Radio and stuff in the WrestleCrap archives. A lot of people have been interested in that. We actually have the archives online now. Just go to WrestleCrap.com. There's a link that says this is how you get the archives. You jump right in, and you can hop in the Wayback Machine and join the fun.
Indeed. Yes, go to WrestleCrap.com, join in the fun. I can't think of a better banner for it than that. So, Blade, what do you got to show right now?
Well, RD covered what I normally start off by shilling, but I will say this. I am on a weekly television show, weekly horror-hosted television show, much in the vein of Elvira's movie Macabre. It's called Drive-In Movie Maniacs. Go check that out on Facebook. You can see the hijinks of Midnight Rose on that show. Also, I'm in a new horror film. It's going to be coming out on DVD soon. It's called Hole in the Wall. Check that out. Just Google that. It also stars Judith O'Day, who played Barbara in Night of the Living Dead. So you can see Barbara. They're coming to get you, Barbara. They're coming to get you, Blade Braxton, in Hole in the Wall. Go check that out. And go to WrestleCrap. I'll pound that in your head, too.
I'm both legitimately intrigued.
Listen to the RD and Blade show.
I am both legitimately intrigued and horrified by the idea of Googling Hole in the Wall. I'm not sure what kind of results I'm going to get from that.
I think the word glory is going to show up in some of those.
That's what I'm afraid of, as a matter of fact.
There you go.
All right. Well, I guess that brings me to one last note before I let you both go. I believe Roddy Piper was working on a horror film that just wrapped production and is going to release in January. So it's like the ghost of him, no pun intended on horror movies here, but the ghost of him is going to haunt us even long after he's gone.
As well it should be.
Yes.
Yes. So, and I guess that'll be sad if I ever go back to Days of the Dead, because I kind of formed this mental association with Piper and horror movies in my head, and the next time I get a chance to go, I won't get to see him. Kind of a downer note. I'm sorry about that, but he definitely was part of it for many years and seemed to be very much a fan of horror movies and not a snob about it either. You know, big budget, small budget didn't seem to matter to him.
Oh yeah. He was in. I was going to be in the film, but I couldn't get a flight on a moment's notice. Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies, of course, which is due to be released by Trauma soon. It's already had its independent release, but Trauma picked it up, and they'll be distributing it nationally.
Well, another thing to look forward to then from Piper that's, like you said, it already had its independent release, but Trauma would give it a bigger feature and put it out everywhere. And this movie coming up in January, too, we'll get to see that as well. And many more things, I'm sure. In fact, I believe even tonight as we're recording this, there's a special on WWE Network with Piper and Gene Okerlund and Paul Orndorff. I think they called it Table for Three.
Awesome.
I don't know when they filmed that, but I'm going to look forward to watching that, as hopefully everybody will look forward to this replay and to enjoying this show. Oh, one more thing. Jason, you didn't get to give your cheap plugs yet.
Yeah, sure. Let me throw my plugs in. You can check out my cooking blog. Much like Daniel Bryan, I am a vegan. My cooking blog is at veggiebending.wordpress.com. You can check that out. I threw up a recipe for some vegan poutine last week. Amazing. Also, check out New Japan World, njpwworld.com for the best New Japan action. The G1 Climax is going on right now. You still have time to get in. Pay your 999 yen, which works out to somewhere between $8 and $9 American, and get in before the end of the G1 Climax and see who emerges the victor. And on the final night of the G1 Climax, the 16th of August, Ricochet, the guy who plays Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, will be taking on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Kushida.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Jason. And thank you so much to everybody that's been on the show tonight. Brian Fritz in our first hour, Artie and Blade in our second hour. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And it's a somber week with Piper's passing last Friday, but I'm glad we were able to talk about it and share a few laughs and some good memories. And I hope that's what everybody's done in the past week, is just reminisce on Piper and all the fun times that he gave us and how he made our lives a little brighter. So thank you for listening. Stevie J for Thursday Night AMP saying so long till we see you again.